The smell of perfume and expensive wine overpowered the scent of grilled meat and freshly cut hay. Jake wiped his hands on the apron and turned. Sarah was laughing at one of Ryan's stories, the well-groomed boyfriend of her sister. Ashley, as usual, looked like she'd just stepped out of a magazine. Short dress, high heels, and a face that said, "I'm only slumming it for the vibes." Jake poured drinks, but instead of a thanks, Ryan casually tossed out, "You really do all this yourself? Like, by hand?" Then he smirked, poking at the salad like it was some novelty from a farmer's market in Brooklyn. Jake kept quiet. He kept quiet when Sarah mentioned for the third time how, at least in the city, there's somewhere to go at night. He kept quiet when Ashley joked her manicure wouldn't survive a day on this backwoods prairie. He even kept quiet when Sarah corrected his grammar at the table like she was embarrassed by how he talked. But then, Ashley leaned back with her glass and said, "Still, it's pretty here. There's something kinda romantic about the countryside. But living here all the time? That's gotta be tough. Maybe even sad." Jake, looking at Sarah, smiled faintly and said, "Sarah chose me and the farm. She loves the atmosphere. We're doing all right." And that's when Sarah raised her wine glass, smirked without humor, and looked him dead in the eyes. "I'm sick of you and your stinking farm." "Sorry, what?" Jake leaned forward slightly, as if he hadn't heard her right. But he had, loud and clear. Sarah didn't look at him. She stared into her wine glass like it had the answers to all her regrets. "You heard me," she said quietly, then louder, firmer. "I'm sick of all of this." The table went still. Ashley froze mid-bite, fork trembling slightly in her hand. Ryan casually sipped his wine, eyes lowered, lips twitching with the faintest trace of amusement. Jake stood up slowly, pushing the chair back with a low scrape against the floor. His voice was low, calm, but had that dangerous kind of stillness, like thunder waiting. "Sick of what?" he asked. "Me? The life we built? The farm?" Sarah stood up too, not shaking anymore. No, she was fired up now, running hot with pent-up resentment. Her words came out fast, sharp. All of it, the mud, the smell, the never-ending routine. "I'm going to be 30 soon, Jake. 30. And I'm still here, shoveling manure on some goddamn farm like it's 1952. Jake blinked once like she'd slapped him, but he kept his composure. "You're not shoveling manure," he said slowly. "I do that. I've done that for years. You haven't lifted a pitchfork in months. I take care of the heavy lifting. I run the business. We're not broke, Sarah. The farm's doing fine. I've been shielding you from the hard stuff, not burying you in it." "Oh, please," she snapped. "You call that shielding? It's smothering, Jake. You want to know why I've been going to the city so much? To breathe. That's where I remember who I am. When I'm here, I feel like I'm fading." Jake's jaw clenched. "You go every other week," he said. "I never stopped you. Not once. You said you needed space. I gave it. I didn't ask questions. I trusted you." "Well, maybe that was your mistake," she yelled, voice cracking now. "Because every time I come back it gets harder. You want to play the noble farmer? Fine. But I'm not your trophy wife. I'm not some helpless little bird that you keep in a warm nest." Jake took a breath. His eyes were starting to burn. He glanced over at Ashley, wide-eyed, silent, and Ryan, who now looked like he was watching a show. Sarah looked at Jake silently. Then she stepped back, chest heaving. "I need space," she said finally, quieter now, but no less cutting. "I'm going to the city. I'll stay with Ashley for a while." Jake didn't move, didn't say a word. In his mind, he imagined flipping the table, throwing her suitcase out into the dirt, smashing something, anything. But his heart, damn it, his heart still loved her. So he stood there, frozen, while inside him a storm raged. Sarah didn't wait for the morning. She moved fast, sharp, mechanical. Her wineglass still sat half full on the table as she disappeared down the hallway. Drawers opened, the closet creaked. The zipper of her old duffel bag bit into the silence like a blade. "Ashley!" she called out from the bedroom, her voice clipped and final. "We're leaving. Now." Ashley hesitated. For a second, she looked like she wanted to say something. maybe to protest, maybe to calm things down. Instead, she grabbed her purse and phone without a word. As she passed Jake, she gave him a glance. Not pity, not apology. Just human discomfort. "Jake," she said softly, barely audible. "I'm sorry. I didn't think tonight would end like this." He nodded, because what the hell else could he do? Then came Ryan, grinning like he'd just come from a midnight improv set. He gave a short chuckle and tossed out, "Well, dinner was a disaster. But hey, at least it wasn't boring." Jake looked at him, just looked, and for a brief moment Ryan flinched. That smirk faded fast. The front door opened, the night air rushed in, footsteps on the gravel, car doors, engine roar. Then silence. Just like that, she was gone. Jake didn't move for a long time. He just stood in the doorway, staring at the empty space where her boots used to sit. The hum of the refrigerator was suddenly too loud. A fly buzzed near the window and sounded like a chainsaw. He sat down, slowly. He looked at the plate still full of food across from him, her fork resting on the napkin, half-eaten corn, everything exactly where it was when she said it. "I'm sick of you and your stinking farm." The words replayed like a looped recording. He almost laughed at how cleanly she'd cut him. Almost. Instead, his eyes drifted to the wooden beams above, the ones they hung lights from when they first moved in. She loved those lights. She said they made the place feel like home. He whispered, not even realizing it at first. "Where did I lose you, Sarah?" No one answered. Just the creak of the old farmhouse settling into the night. His thoughts turned inward, spiraling. He tried to find the moment it started. Maybe it was last year when she began spending more time with Ashley in the city. Or maybe it was even earlier when he got the second tractor and talked about expanding. At first she loved the farm, said it made her feel alive, wore his old flannel, laughed in the rain, danced barefoot in the mud. Then came the phone calls, the nights away, the careful distance in her voice. He tried to be good, supportive, quiet, strong, but now she was gone, and all his strength meant nothing. Jake exhaled slowly, the kind of exhale you only do when there's no one left to impress. He walked to the window and watched the long road stretch into the dark. Somewhere down that road, headlights had vanished. Maybe she was laughing in the car already, maybe crying. He didn't know. Didn't matter. Behind him the kitchen was still lit, warm, full of food, full of the life she just walked out of. Jake stood there in the dark, alone in his silence, the kind of silence that didn't come from peace, but from something breaking, and no one around to hear it. Jake didn't call. Not that night. Not the next day. He told himself space was the smart move. Let her cool down, let the dust settle. But deep down, he knew it was fear. Not fear of confrontation, fear of confirmation. Because if she really meant what she said, if she'd really meant to walk out for good, he wasn't sure what came next. The house was quieter than usual, not in the peaceful, end-of-a-long-day kind of way. It was the kind of quiet that crawled up the walls and pressed in on your chest. The kind where you hear the hum of the refrigerator like it's yelling at you. On the second morning, Jake found her laptop still sitting on the corner table. She must have forgotten it in the rush. He didn't touch it at first, but that evening, needing to double-check an old budget file they'd worked on together, he cracked it open. Her login was still active. Everything felt oddly normal. Desktop wallpaper of wildflowers, a few sticky notes with grocery lists, a Spotify tab left open to some city playlist that irritated him. While searching through her cloud folders for the document, he noticed a set of synced photos labeled automatically by date. He clicked without thinking. Most were harmless. Shots from Ashley's apartment, a dinner party, some storefronts lit up at night. But then he saw one that made his eyes pause and lock in. Ryan. He was standing behind Sarah, arms casually draped over her shoulders. She was laughing, head tilted toward him like they were in on some secret. Another showed them clinking glasses on what looked like a balcony. In one, her hand was on his chest. Jake stared for a few seconds too long before closing the window. He sat back in the chair, ran a hand down his face, and exhaled through his nose. "They're just friends," he muttered, but the words didn't stick. He got up, made coffee, went outside, and started working, anything to keep his hands busy. The next few days blurred into motion. Feed the cattle, fix the western fence post, order parts for the baler. There wasn't time to think, or at least that's what he told himself. But even with dirt under his nails and the sun burning into his neck, the images played behind his eyes like a slow reel. Ryan's hand on Sarah's waist. That smirk. That balcony. He picked up his phone a dozen times, opened her contact, never dialed. What was he supposed to say? "Hey, I miss you?" That felt weak. "Are you sleeping with that smug jackass your sister brought to my dinner table?" That felt dangerous. A week passed. One evening, as the sky turned the color of rust and blood, Jake pulled the tractor into the garage. He cut the engine, sat in the cab, and didn't move. The quiet was thicker here, more honest. The laptop was still on the table inside. He looked at it through the window, then turned his eyes toward the horizon. Maybe she needed space. Fine, but maybe he needed answers. He climbed down from the tractor, dusted off his jeans, and leaned on the doorframe. For the first time in days, he let the thought fully form. Maybe it was time to drive into town. No accusations, no yelling, just return the laptop, and maybe see if anything could still be salvaged. Maybe. Jake waited until morning. He gave it a night, though he barely slept. The house creaked in all the usual places, but without Sarah in it, the sounds felt different. Lonelier. The kind of silence that makes your own breathing feel loud. At 9:03 a.m., he finally called. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice was soft, polite, neutral. "Hey," she said. "Hey," Jake replied, trying not to sound too eager. "Just checking in. Wanted to see how you're holding up." There was a pause, short but heavy. "I'm all right," Sarah said. "I've been thinking, trying to sort through things. I started seeing a therapist." Jake wasn't sure what to say. He nodded, even though she couldn't see it. "That's good," he finally said. "I think that's good. I just need time to figure things out, Jake. I don't want to jump into anything while my head's still messy." "I get it," he said, though he didn't. Not really. I miss you. I still think we've got something worth fighting for." Another pause. "Maybe," she said. "I don't know yet. I'm not saying no. I just need space to think." Jake looked at the laptop still sitting on the corner table. "You left your computer here. Want me to bring it?" "I'll pick it up next week," she said quickly. "I've got a full week. Appointments and stuff." He hung up a few minutes later with something that felt like hope lodged in his chest. Fragile, but real. The kind of thing a man could hold on to if he really wanted to. But the next morning, he stood in the kitchen, staring at that laptop like it had started talking to him. The logic said, wait. She said she'd come get it. But every instinct in his body said otherwise. He wasn't going to wait. Not out of impatience, out of belief, out of stubborn, desperate belief that maybe she needed a reminder of the life they'd built, of the man who still showed up for her, no matter what. He dressed carefully. Fresh shirt, clean jeans, boots buffed and shining like it was Sunday morning. He even shaved, looked himself in the mirror, and for a second saw the man she used to laugh with. At the florist on Main Street, he bought a bouquet that turned heads, wild orchids, pale roses, soft trailing greens. The kind of bouquet that said, I remember who you are, more than, I'm sorry. He wrapped the laptop in a towel, tucked it into the passenger seat next to the flowers. Before pulling out, he stopped by Jim's. Could you feed the calves tonight, just in case I'm back late? Jim gave a simple nod, didn't ask questions, didn't need to. By the time Jake's truck rolled through the city, it was almost 11. Ashley's town home sat at the end of a quiet street, clean lawn, red door, tree out front trimmed neat. He parked across from it, engine off, hand resting on the wheel. Ashley and Ryan were probably at work. That meant Sarah might be alone. A good time to talk. Really talk. He looked down at the flowers, the laptop, then at the front door. And then, with a steady breath, Jake stepped out of the truck and into the day that would change everything. Jake stood in front of the door, one hand holding the bouquet, the other clutching the laptop like it was a peace offering. His heart thudded in his ears. He'd gone over at least 5 different ways to start the conversation during the drive. "Hey, just thought I'd bring this by. I couldn't wait a week. Can we talk?" None of them sounded right now. He took a breath, stepped up to the door, and knocked lightly. No answer. He knocked again, a bit firmer. Still nothing. He reached for the knob to try again, just to knock harder, but the moment his hand touched it, the door creaked open. It wasn't locked, just hanging loose, like the whole place had let its guard down. Jake hesitated. He didn't mean to walk in, but the silence inside pulled at him. He stepped in gently, not even sure if he had the right to. His voice caught in his throat, so he didn't say anything. Just stood there, awkward and unsure. The house was quiet, except for a soft, distant sound, running water, then laughter, Sarah's. Jake's body went rigid. He took 2 small steps into the hallway. The bathroom door at the far end of the corridor was fogged from steam. Shadows moved behind the glass. Then the door swung open. Out stepped Ryan, shirtless, hair wet, a towel barely holding on around his waist. He looked relaxed, like he lived there. He didn't even notice Jake, until Sarah walked out behind him, also in a towel, grinning at something he'd said. Then she looked up and saw her husband. She froze, like someone yanked the air out of her lungs. "Jake? What the hell are you doing here?" Ryan blinked in slow motion. His eyes bounced between Jake and Sarah. Then he stepped forward, raising his hands awkwardly, like he was calming a dog. "Dude, this isn't what it looks like, all right? I was just helping out with the drain. You know how it is? 2 women in one house, all that hair, gets clogged. Figured I'd just help." Jake didn't move, didn't blink. Then he looked at the flowers in his hand and slammed the bouquet straight into Ryan's face. Petals burst like confetti as Jake pushed him backward with the force of the blow, the stems crunching against Ryan's jaw. "Hey, stop! What the hell?" Ryan sputtered, spitting out bits of crushed flowers. "Don't hit me, man! She wanted it! She came onto me!" Sarah screamed, grabbing her towel tighter as she pushed between them. "I'm calling the police if you don't leave!" Jake stepped back, his chest heaving. "You were supposed to be figuring yourself out, right? Getting your head straight? Was that before or after you started sleeping your sister's boyfriend?" "It was a mistake," Sarah yelled. "I didn't plan for this to happen." Jake stared at her. Didn't plan? Was that before the shared shower or after the towel moment? She didn't answer right away. I was confused," she finally said. "I needed to feel something, anything. You and that farm sucked the life out of me. I was lonely, and he made me feel alive again." Jake laughed. It wasn't joy. It was grief in a new accent. "So that's it? You cheat because my life isn't shiny enough? You blame the dirt and the cows and the early mornings? Hell, I never stopped loving you. I never stopped showing up." Sarah's face crumpled for a second, but then hardened. "You were always more married to the land than to me. Don't act surprised. You didn't even see it coming." Jake stepped back, his jaw tight, voice low. "Yeah, and that's on me." He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and with the calm of a man who'd seen too much, raised it up and snapped the picture. Sarah in a towel, crouching to help Ryan, who was still gagging on flower petals, towel barely hanging on, looking like an idiot who just choked on someone else's life. Click. 1 photo. That's all he needed. "Jake, don't you dare," Sarah said, her voice rising, eyes wild. "Please don't send that." He tapped the screen, selected Ashley, sent. Too late. "You're disgusting," he said. "The both of you. In her house, while she's at work. You don't even have the decency to feel ashamed." "Jake, come on, man," Ryan coughed. "Just let us talk, all right? It's not... It's exactly what it looks like," Jake snapped. Sarah stood, her towel clenched tight in her fists, still trying to reclaim some sense of control. Please, don't bring Ashley into this. You brought her into it the second you spread your legs in her guest room. Sarah flinched. Ryan looked away. No one had anything to say now. Jake turned his back and walked toward the living room, his hands shaking but steady enough to clench. He didn't have to wait long. The screech of tires outside was loud enough to rattle the windows. The front door slammed open so hard it bounced off the wall. Ashley stormed in, phone still in hand, screen lit up with the photo. "You've got to be kidding me," she hissed. Her heels clicked across the floor like gunshots. Her eyes locked on Sarah. "In my house? You were doing this in my damn house?" "Ashley, wait," Sarah started, stepping forward. Don't even try." Ashley turned to Ryan, voice cracking from fury. "You stayed home from work to sleep with my sister?" "It's not like that," Ryan stammered. "Then what is it, huh? You and I live together. I pay rent. I trusted you. And this?" She waved the phone in his face. "This is what you were doing behind my back while I was paying bills and believing your bullshit?" Sarah whispered something like, "It was a mistake," but Ashley was past listening. "How long?" she demanded, voice suddenly cold. "How long has this been going on?" Ryan looked at Sarah. Sarah looked at the floor. "A month," she said, barely audible. Ashley stepped back like someone had slapped her. "A month!" Neither of them responded. Jake stood quietly, arms crossed, jaw tight. This wasn't his scene anymore, but the pain still burned under his skin. Ashley took one long look at them, then pointed to the door. "Get out!" Neither of them moved. "Out! Both of you! Pack your shit and get out of my house!" Sarah started crying, but Ashley wasn't moved. "I don't want to hear a single word from either of you. This isn't confusion. This isn't being lost. This is betrayal." Jake turned to leave. As he reached the doorway, Ashley caught his eye. "Jake," she said, softer. "I'm sorry." He nodded once. Didn't say a word. Just walked out the door and into the daylight, leaving broken people in his wake. For the first time in a long time, Jake didn't feel like the one who should be ashamed. He didn't look back. The drive back to the farm felt longer than usual, not because of the distance. It was the silence, the kind of silence that used to be peaceful. Now it just reminded Jake of how much noise had filled his life for all the wrong reasons. When he got home, he didn't slam the door. He didn't punch the wall or yell into the empty living room. He just walked into his office, opened his laptop, and typed one thing into the search bar. "Divorce attorney near me." By the next morning, he'd scheduled a consultation. By the end of the week, he'd filed. There wasn't much to fight over. The farm had come from Jake's father, passed down when the old man died 3 years ago. Legally, the land, equipment, and livestock were Jake's. The only joint assets were a modest savings account and some shared furniture. The court process took less than 3 months. Sarah didn't contest anything. Maybe she knew she didn't have the ground to stand on. In the end, she walked away with a few $1,000s and whatever clothes and keepsakes she managed to gather. No drama, no fight. She tried to call a few times, texted once about how sorry she was, how she didn't mean for things to end this way. Jake never answered. It wasn't anger anymore, not really. It was a kind of cold clarity. Some things broke clean, and there was no gluing them back without cutting your hands on the edges. One afternoon, maybe a month after everything went down, Ashley drove out to the farm. She brought a bottle of whiskey and a paper bag with still warm biscuits from a diner in town. They sat on the porch watching the sun drop over the field. No one said anything for a while. Then she looked over and said, "Thank you." Jake raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For exposing it," she said. "For not letting them lie their way out of it. I never thought my own sister would." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. "I'm sorry you had to find out like that," Jake said. "I'm not," Ashley replied. "Better now than 10 years deeper." They toasted with paper cups. After that, things changed. Jake stopped waiting for life to settle. He threw himself into the farm with new energy. Pain, it turned out, made a hell of a fuel source. He leased new equipment, a bigger baler, a second-hand combine, even an upgraded irrigation system. He hired 2 seasonal hands to help with the load, gave them decent pay and a clean place to bunk. He wasn't just running the farm anymore. He was building it. The barns got cleaned out, the fences repaired. He started planning crop rotation schedules like a man with something to prove. And maybe he did. Not to Sarah, not to the town. To himself. There were still hard nights, still moments when he caught himself reaching for the second pillow. But every time he walked the field at sunrise, every time a new calf was born healthy, every time a shipment left his land and brought back good money, Jake knew he wasn't broken. He was just getting started. A year passed. The farm looked different now. Not just cleaner, not just bigger, brighter. Jake had expanded his operations, doubled his yield, and finally added the small dairy barn he and his father used to talk about but never built. Local stores started buying directly from him. Word spread. People called it one of the most well-run family farms in the county. But success wasn't the only thing that had found him. Her name was Linda. She was a veterinarian, smart, steady, and with a quiet smile that made long days feel a little shorter. They met when she came out to check on one of his steers that had gone lame. What started as shop talk turned into coffee on the porch, then lunch under the old oak by the barn, then something warmer, something real. They didn't rush it. Neither of them needed another whirlwind, but there was something about working side by side, talking about animal health and grain mix and long-range plans. That felt right, like they weren't just rebuilding a life, they were planting something new together. Jake still heard from Ashley now and then. Not often, just enough. Holiday texts, a check-in when a storm rolled through the county, a bottle of homemade apple cider she left on his porch last fall with a note that said, "Keep kicking ass." As for Sarah, last he heard, she found a job at a marketing firm in the city. She and Ryan lived together for a few months, but it didn't stick. Something about arguments, distance, too many differences. Whatever it was, they split. Jake didn't ask for details, didn't care. Irony had done its job and he didn't need to watch it play out. He had other things to focus on now. Crops, livestock, good people, and the kind of peace that comes when you've walked through fire and come out not scorched, but forged. New love saved him. He and Linda had a lot in common. Their relationship was growing, and it was beautiful. Sometimes to dull the pain, a new love comes along. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. I wish you a great mood and good luck.